1982, a small team headed by Chris Keith Lucas and Guy Black created an exquisite V12 shooting brake, using a Jaguar XJ-S as its basis. The team took a regular XJ-S coupe and replaced the entire rear end of the car, from the rear of the back seats through to the rear bumper. What resulted was a flowing 3-door fastback design, which was certainly not an estate or station wagon by any means. Following in these footsteps, my aim is to create my very own shooting brake XJ-S as a tribute to the car that would be called the Lynx Eventer. Join me as I embark on one of my most ambitious diecast projects. Lynx Eventers retained the luxuries of the XJ-S, but had the added benefits of extra visibility, greater rear seat leg and headroom, and acres of boot space. Each Eventer was exclusively built for customers, with the conversion taking approximately 14 weeks to complete. A prototype was built in 1982, which, by Chris Keith Lucas's own admission, is probably slightly dimensionally different from all subsequent cars, as they didn't have any jigs at that stage. Originally, they had planned to use a sunroof as the junction between new and old roof sections, but this caused issues, so an extra layer of filler gave it the necessary double curvature. This is also something that I am going to have to overcome, albeit at a smaller scale, 64-fold. How was I going to create that extended roof section? Well, my solution would most definitely not have been feasible in reality. What I needed was 2 XJ-S's. And that's what I've got, 2 later issue Corgi Juniors J18 models, each with the metal bases rather than the earlier plastic ones. Of course, Lynx Eventers could never be financially viable using 2 XJ-S's. I could simply discard the second model after harvesting its roof, but I have separate plans for that, the result of which you'll be able to see in next week's video. Production of the Lynx Eventer totaled just 67 vehicles, from the 1982 prototype to the final car in 2002. Of the 67 cars, 52 were pre-1991 facelift XJ-S's and 15 were facelifted versions. 18 were left-hand drive, while 49 were right-hand drive. Despite their exclusivity, not all Eventers were the top-of-the-range V12 XJ-S's, with 3 having the 3.6 litre Jaguar XJ-6 straight 6, 2 of which had a manual gearbox and 1 automatic.
Okay, let's go.
Just one Eventer was a post-facelift 4-litre straight 6 model. 2 or 3 Eventers used the 1988 to 1993 high-performance XJR-S editions as their basis, themselves already limited in number to 787 coupes. All other Eventers used the high-efficiency Jaguar V12 engine. On the fantastic website lynxeventer.com, each Lynx Eventer that has been identified has been catalogued so that you can find pictures of each. Many commentators over the year have said that the Lynx Eventer vastly improved the looks of the XJ-S, particularly the lines due to the eradication of the rear buttresses. It has always been a controversial car in terms of styling. Design and development on it had begun in the late 1960s. An initial shape was penned by Malcolm Sayer, but its design would be completed by the in-house Jaguar team following his death in 1970. The design was radical, with its long overhangs and flying buttresses. Remember, this was the car destined to replace the E-Type. Production of the Series 3 E-Type had ended in 1974, and the XJ-S would be introduced in September the following year. Power was supplied by Jaguar's 5.3 litre V12 with a choice of manual or automatic transmission. The manual would soon be dropped as they were leftovers from the Series 3 E-Type production. The V12 engine powered the car to a top speed of 143 miles per hour and reached 60 in 7.6 seconds. However, it was released in the wake of a fuel crisis, meaning its target market was small. What also worked against it was the radical styling being such a departure from the E-Type, having shifted from being a sports car to a Grand Tourer, in the process losing the option of a convertible roof. The flying buttresses were criticised by German authorities, as it was feared that they reduced rearward vision. The XJ-S, and similarly the Lancia Monte Carlo, were refused type approval there, meaning German buyers had to obtain road approval for their cars on an individual basis. The only styling difference of note on the original XJ-S was for the US market, where it had 4 round sealed beam lights instead of 2 headlights that were standard elsewhere to meet legislation requirements. Sales were poor. Production was even halted in 1981 in order for unsold stock to be shifted. Because of this, Jaguar's owner at the time, British Leyland, had decided to discontinue the XJ-S in 1981, but opted to give it a lifeline with a minor facelift and engine revisions. The result was the XJ-S HE, which utilised the new high-efficiency V12 for improved fuel economy, which in turn increased power output. Visually, it received new 5-spoke Starfish alloy wheels, body-coloured boot trim in place of black trim, chrome inserts to the upper sections of the bumpers, and burled elm inserts to the dashboard and doors. In 1983, the new 3.6-litre AJ6 straight-6 engine was introduced, with only the 5-speed manual available with it. These were identifiable by a raised bonnet centre section. At the same time, a new drop-top model was finally introduced, called the XJ-SC. It was not strictly a convertible though, as it had a non-removable Targa-type structure in the centre, fixed rails above the doors, and fixed rear quarter windows. The small rear seats were removed on this model to make space for the removable soft top. XJ-SCs could only have the 6-cylinder power plant until 1985, when the V12 became available. From 1987, the AJ6 engine had an optional 4-speed ZF automatic transmission, though the V12 retained the stronger GM 3-speed autobox. Production of the XJ-SC ceased in 1988, replaced by a full factory convertible instead. Full convertible conversions had been offered by some US dealers as early as 1986, with works completed by Hess and Eisenhardt. These were built under contract from Jaguar by converting coupes, with approximately 2100 made. I touched on it earlier, but from 1988 to 1993, Jaguar offered the XJR-S high-performance model. The 5.3-litre V12 was produced by Jaguar Sport, a 50-50 venture between Jaguar and Tom Walkinshaw Racing. These had distinctive body kits, special alloy wheels, a unique suspension system, leather and walnut trim, and included handling improvements. The first 100 cars were badged as Celebration Le Mans to commemorate Jaguar's 1988 24 Hours of Le Mans win. These were only sold in the UK. 326 5.3-litre cars were made, which produced 318 horsepower. In 1989, the displacement was increased to 6 litres, with the engine unique to this model. This pushed power output up to 328 horsepower, and gave it a top speed of 160 miles per hour. 787 coupe and 50 convertible XJR-S's were built. To mark the launch of the XJ220, 100 XJR-S models were produced exclusively for the US market. The XJR-S spanned the 1991 facelift that the car received. Jaguar was now under Ford's ownership, and they decided to drop the hyphen in the XJ-S name. The rear windows had their frames removed in order for them to appear larger, while the buttresses remained but looked visibly reduced in size due to the new side window trim. The V12 engine was also upgraded with new injectors, fuel system and spark plugs. It saw power increase from 269 to 276 horsepower. A new 4-litre version of the AJ6 was also offered. In May 1992, capacity of the V12 was increased to 6 litres, with a power output of 304 horsepower. With its introduction came a new GM automatic transmission with 4th gear overdrive. A 2+2 convertible was introduced, as were aerodynamic front and rear bumpers painted the same colour as the body, and a new instrument binnacle was fitted to the interior. Outboard rear brakes would replace the inboard ones in 1993. A special celebration model was released in 1995 to celebrate the 60th anniversary of Jaguar cars. These featured diamond-turned wheels, Jaguar embossed seats, and a wooden steering wheel. After 21 years of production, the XJ-S was finally discontinued in 1996, replaced by the XK, which continued to use a modified version of the XJ-S platform until 2005. Over the course of the 3 iterations of XJ-S, just over 115,000 were produced in 21 years of manufacture. Along the way, in addition to the magnificent Lynx Eventer conversion, there have been several other modified, quirky or otherwise interesting XJ-Ss. It was a well-campaigned racing car during the late 70s and 1980s. In 1977, the Group 44 racing team had a successful season in Trans Am, using a car based on a production XJ-S chassis and running gear. Driver Bob Tullius won the Drivers' Championship, but missed out on the manufacturer's title by 2 points due to running only one car. Other manufacturers competed running many more cars. They bettered this with a Silhouette XJ-S in 1978, winning Tullius another championship, in addition to securing the manufacturer's title by running a second driver at some venues. In 1979, an XJ-S set a new Cannonball Run record by driving from New York to Los Angeles in 32 hours and 51 minutes, a record that would stand for 4 years. British Leyland would approach Tom Walkinshaw in 1981 to identify the BL car best suited for the FIA's new Group A rules in order to run in the European Touring Car Championship. BL were pushing the Rover 3500 SD1, but Walkinshaw suggested the XJ-S due to its double wishbone suspension. This would allow them to run the widest possible wheels permissible under the Group A regulations. BL ultimately decided not to back any new project efforts. But Walkinshaw and his team Tom Walkinshaw Racing moved forward with it, depending on backing from sponsors. Jaguar would provide some engineering support. The XJ-S would win its first race at Brno that season, qualifying 5.37 seconds quicker than anybody else. More victories followed in 1983 as the TWR Jaguars became the cars to beat. Walkinshaw claimed the 1984 ETCC Drivers' Championship and also won the Spa 24 Hours race, proving both the speed and the reliability of the 5.3 litre V12. It was retired from European competition in 1985, so attention turned to Australia and the Bathurst 1000, where TWR claimed 1st, 2nd and 6th placed finishes in their XJ-Ss that year. In 1986, the newly reformed Lister cars began offering a high-performance package for the XJ-S. These were sold as Lister Jaguar and 90 cars were converted. The standard conversion included an increase in engine displacement to 7 litres, in addition to a host of other drivetrain, braking and suspension modifications. It also had a new body kit with a rear spoiler, modified rear light clusters, and wider arches to fit new wider tyres. The car now produced 496 brake horsepower. The 0 to 60 acceleration time was 4.5 seconds, and it could achieve a top speed of 200 miles per hour. In addition to the standard package was the Le Mans package, which upped power to 604 brake horsepower via twin superchargers. Jaguar did consider a luxury Daimler branded version which would be marketed as the Daimler S. Notably, this car had the flying buttresses removed, and what a stark difference that makes. A single prototype was built in 1986. In the 1990s, Paul Bannon produced some custom notchback XJ-S coupes without the buttresses, but with larger rear side windows and narrow C-pillars. One final curiosity would be the 1984 3.6 litre straight 6-engined XJ-S, which was converted by Jaguar Special Vehicle Operations into a police demonstrator vehicle. This had a typical rooftop police light bar of the period, a police radio in the centre console, and plastic interior trim, with cloth seats replacing the usual leather. This XJ-S was loaned to a number of UK police forces. However, no orders were received due to a lack of interior space for traffic police equipment or for, quote, passengers. Ever since, it has remained a museum piece, seeing no further service. Building a suitable window piece has been one of the trickiest parts of this project. The main windshield was fine. I cut a clean line along the B-pillar, ready to accept my solution for the rear compartment. For that, I took my spare window piece from the second Corgi XJ-S, cut off what I required, and then shaped the rear part around my new C-pillars. That left only the rear glass to do, which in reality came directly from a Citroen Ami 8 Berlin. My solution is a little more modest, a cutout from a plastic tub of potato salad, but it most certainly does the trick. Please enjoy the final stages of this build without any further interruptions from me until we reassemble. Let's put this Lynx Eventer together for the first time. Obviously, all of the window pieces are already glued in place, so I just need to slot in my customised interior piece, which glides over some of the raised cast areas I left in situ to hold it steady. And then, when I'm happy with it, I can reintroduce the base. So this was how the humble Jaguar XJ-S by Corgi Juniors looked to start off. I chose this one because of its cast metal base. Earlier examples had flimsier plastic ones. As such, this one was in pretty good nick, but these models are 10 a penny here, and it offered me a solid base to build up from. I set myself quite a challenge for this project, so let's see it now as a Lynx Eventer. I don't normally do total transformation builds quite as ambitious as this, but I've wanted to do a 1 in 64 Lynx Eventer for such a long time. I'm really pleased with how it's turned out. Sure, it isn't perfect, and there are definitely things I'd do differently if I had another bite of the cherry. But as Chris Keith Lucas himself said of the prototype Eventer, we were learning. It is probably slightly different from all subsequent cars. And that is the very nature of custom conversions like this. I would aim to get some smaller wheels perhaps, as these are a bit oversized, and I think the roof needs a bit more fettling. But on the whole, I'm proud of what I've achieved with it. Do let me know your thoughts on it down in the comments, and leave a like if you're a Lynx Eventer fan. Make sure that you check out next week's video to see what I did with the donor XJ-S model. And if you aren't subscribed already, why not? But all that leaves me to say is thanks for watching, and I'll see you again for the next one. Bye for now.